Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode right here on EV Myths Busted. And joining me on this episode where we explore all the different myths about EVs is my good friend, my co-host, the man from radio himself, Mr. Dan Cole.
Hello, Renee, and good morning. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so happy to be hosting this Saturday morning with you and driving in this fantastic car that we're in. So yeah, it's been good. I think the previous time around we did busted some myths.
Yes, we did. A whole lot of myths we busted, man, last time.
Yeah, and I think there were quite a lot of the questions and kind of concerns that we did address. But of course, as with EVs, I think there's still a lot of skepticism.
Right.
So we're gonna try to bust a few more today.
A whole lot more, actually, bro.
Yeah, I think a good couple of them. Especially for you folks in HDBs as well. I think a lot of you may have concerns about what's like to own an EV, right?
That's right.
So I think, this is certainly an episode that you want to tune into, and stay tuned for what's to come, of course.
Okay, so what is our very first myth that we will be busting?
All right, the first myth that we have to address would be the fact that EVs are considered to be far more expensive than petrol due to the high COE. I mean, if you look at the exuberant prices of COE today, it's mad, right? I mean, Cat A alone reached about $120,000.
I think even more than that, man. It just keeps on escalating and escalating, and
that's
no end in sight, I think.
At this point, I don't know what's really affordable on the roads now.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's actually a myth because, if you have been following a lot of the government measures, right, you would notice that, the government's EV early adoption incentive, that's the EEAI for short, together alongside with the VESA1 rebate, they can slash up to $40,000. That's as of this year.
Yeah.
Next year will be revised to about $30,000.
Okay.
That's off the additional registration fee.
Right.
Rebate that you actually get, so it would significantly eliminate a lot of the price gap that you see. So what you see on paper isn't exactly entirely what you're gonna pay, right? So I think that's a good thing, because to a lot of car buyers or people who would pay for big ticket items, you would expect a lot of hidden costs.
Yeah, definitely.
But in actual fact, I feel like maybe for EVs, it could be hidden savings, right?
Exactly.
If you think of it that way. So there is still a review of all these rebates, and I think it's still up for discussion. But as the government adopt more of a green-like future, I think this is definitely something that they would consider, perhaps even adding more in future.
Right. And I think for us here in Singapore, basically the topics that we're going to be discussing today in the Mythbuster is all kind of related to the Singapore market, and which is why Dan mentioned about COEs. And I think for me personally, I think any kind of savings you get is better than no savings at all.
If I could get even a $1 saving, I'm taking it, man.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it makes a whole lot of difference.
So what is the next myth?
So the next myth that we have would be the fact that this is specifically for those who live in the HDB flats,
like me,
and yes, like myself as well. So a lot of them will assume that it's not practical for me to own an EV. Is that true or false?
Okay, so I think end of the day, right, when it comes to whether you stay in a HDB, a landed, a private estate, whatever it is, I think the cost of, what you're looking at is really the cost of owning a car itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not so much of me whether I'm staying in HDB now, because end of the day is when you stay in a HDB, there's nothing that really changes in the sense of spend, because the only thing you're paying for is basically your parking. And good news is that the fact that nowadays with the government's adoption of installing a lot, and I really mean a whole lot of charges throughout the HDB estates. Even where I'm staying, we've got about 6, which to me is pretty okay for now, right now. And with the government's major plan to go totally green by the year 2030, I don't know if that's going to happen. But and they are talking about something like 20,000 EV charges for a little small dot like Singapore. So imagine it, bro. Small dot, 20,000 charges.
Exactly.
Which country actually has?
We're blessed enough.
And for us driving here in Singapore, how far are we going to go? The most I'm going to go from here to work, and the distance from one end to Singapore is about 40 km, I think.
Exactly. And frankly speaking, how much can you actually drive in a day?
Exactly.
I mean, with cars going as high as 400 kilometers per charge, or 500 kilometers. if you're gonna, I mean,
Right.
from one end to the other, from
Right.
like Changi to Tuas is about 40, 50
Yeah,
feet.
exactly. Which I'm
right?
saying, yeah, it's short distance. I mean, the fact that about owning that I cannot own a EV in HDB, I think that's totally busted.
Oh yeah.
What's
for
next?
Sure. All right. Next up, we've got the fact that public charging network is too patchy and, of course, unsustainable.
Right.
Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, we've got reliable partners from the likes of SP Group,
Right.
Charge Plus, and many others who are all starting to build up their EV infrastructure.
Yes.
And with network points of over 13,800 charging units
increasing every day.
island-wide, that's, by the way, stats as of sometime I think last year or something.
Right.
So you're seeing a lot of this rollout and a lot of collaborations with these
new partners.
right,
exactly.
to provide and to meet the targets of Singapore's EV or green future in 2030.
Right.
So it would help you to ensure that you have real-time availability for all these charging networks as well. So I mean, frankly speaking, I feel like in Singapore, I don't think we can complain too much about the
having a
charging.
charger. Exactly.
Not having a charger, because then, I mean, if you're out right at a mall, you would be charging your car ideally, right?
Right.
If there's a spot, of course.
Yeah.
If you're at home, more often than not, you would find like a charger around the area,
Right.
the vicinity. So really, that's like the least of your problems. I
But
think.
that being said, bro, I mean, I think the mentality is just to quickly add into this. It's the fact that I keep telling people, when you charge your EV, it's the same thing that you're doing with your ICE or combustion engine. Because when you top up your petrol, right, you're gonna drive it till it drops down to maybe like I don't know, like 10% or something.
Yeah,
So it's the same. It's the same with with an EV as well. You're gonna be driving it for that whole length of the duration of the charge until it drops to 10%. Then you're gonna charge it. You're not gonna be charging it like how you charge your handphone. Every time you see a point, you're gonna keep charging it.
Exactly.
So so that's what I'm trying to say,
Yeah, and I do believe that at the end of the day, if you have, I mean, we're lucky to say so for ourselves, right? Living in Singapore, right? I think that we have the luxury of being in such a small country,
Right.
but that also gives us a lot of accessibility, and the least of our worries, running home with a lack of battery in our cars,
Correct,
right?
exactly.
So I guess that's the future then.
That's right. So
All
that
right.
is myth busted. So what's the next one we have?
Okay, next up we've got for myth number 4, we've got the fact that EVs are considered slow and boring to drive in a country like Singapore.
And I think that one you can attest to it, bro.
My friends, I think we talked about it the previous time around already,
yeah,
but
we did.
yes, for someone who rides a sports bike,
Right.
this is anything but slow. EVs are anything but slow, right?
That's
They
right.
offer instantaneous
Yeah.
and maximum torque at the shortest amount of time possible, right?
Right.
So that really gives you the whole lot of like an F1 experience.
Exactly.
Being
Off the
in,
line kind of,
yeah.
off the line kind of power.
Exactly, and a legal car for you to drive in Singapore. So I don't know. I feel like this can easily outperform a lot of the combustion engines that we see in the market.
I would easily
Because-
say that, man.
I
I would
mean,
concur.
You're talking about electricity versus the burning of fuel, right?
Correct, exactly.
Let's be real. Electricity is almost instantaneous, right?
Yes.
Unless you can go by at the speed of light.
correct, exactly.
That is something that I guess it's definitely going to be a busted one.
Definitely busted. Okay,
Yeah.
what's the next we have?
Next one, we've got the fact that many won't be able to find workshops to service their EVs.
Okay, so for that one, right? I mean, being EV being a whole new technology. Besides the principal brands, like that, I'm not gonna mention names that have the in-house expertise that can actually do up your car itself.
Yeah.
There's a lot of courses and a lot of workshops who are now realizing that it's time for them to also kind of up their game a bit by being more versatile, by also doing up EVs because EVs, I think one of the main components, and I mean you're aware of it, is the battery. And you don't want to and this is really like high voltage kind of things, and you don't want to be messing around it unless you have the proper experience. So a lot of from what I've been seeing myself, right, there's a lot of new workshops now that are actually also having the expertise in EVs. But that being said, right, I mean, if you look at it, most of the car brands that are out there, they're basically offering you free servicing for the lifetime of the car.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
so I don't see you basically going to a third party to get your EV checked out, because 10 years, when you buy a car, they're giving you 10 years warranty for the battery and also free servicing for the life of the car. So,
I mean, what's the point of taking a risk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're literally telling you, come back to us to fix your car.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's any problem at all, and it's all covered by warranty.
Right.
So,
and if you go and mess around with a third party, they're going to find out, and then there goes your warranty.
Yeah, and there you go.
So,
and then, you put the rest of the bill yourself, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So that, I think, is really a kind of a secondary concern for me when I buy an EV. So that's kind of like busted as well.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's also the fact that a lot of these combustion engines, they have more moving parts.
Correct.
So for EVs, it's a bit more straightforward, and it's better to have the manufacturer or the place, the dealer do it themselves, or for you, to address concerns.
Right. So what do we have next?
All right. The next one, we've got the fact that EVs are considered to be worse for the environment because of their non-engine or non-exhaust emissions.
Okay.
Or like things like, for example, tire or brake dust.
Right.
Well,
so what's your take on that, man?
I mean, we did talk about EV being good for the environment and all that, and I think it's the future, right?
Definitely,
at the end of the day, the emissions that you get from that of a combustion engine, if I dare say so myself, I mean, after I'm still riding one that is,
me too.
Yeah, it emits a lot of bad emissions, right? So EVs do significantly reduce brake dust because of their regenerative braking.
Right.
That's one, right? So which is less pollution, right?
People are not aware of that.
Exactly. And also the fact that they use motor to kind of slow down the car, so that reduces the reliance on the need for more friction brakes and like all these little small particles that gets released into the environment. So I do think that at the end of the day, EV is still, I mean, as an ICE engine user myself, it's still definitely a lot more sustainable.
Right. I mean, just look at it. Environmental perspective, there's really, like you mentioned, no moving parts in the car besides the the brakes and Okay. So what's next on the?
All right. Next up on the list for myth number 7, we've got the fact that hydrogen is considered a better alternative for battery electricity for Singapore cars.
Okay. So for that one, right? I mean, you can see all this news flying around.
Yeah.
Because with the fact that EVs are coming up with so much new technology.
Yeah.
And I think the one of the main countries, correct me if I'm wrong, that is actually exploring hydrogen usage is Japan.
Yes.
So Japan has been trying to ignite the whole hydrogen thing, but if you look at it in terms of infrastructure wise and everything else, right, it's just way too expensive to just do this. And on top of that, the technology, and the pricing and costing and everything else, I think Singapore did a study as well.
Yeah.
And it's just way too expensive to once again go back. I think we did try hydrogen back in the day, right? I can't remember when.
Yep.
It's just too expensive now to go back again and try to experiment again with hydrogen. So I do not think that hydrogen is really a so-called better alternative than what actually we have right now, which is EVs.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I do feel like it might be an alternative or it might be an option for us in future, but a lack of research is done. It's a bit like, plant-based food, right?
Yeah.
Now, we're still trying to find ways to make it a lot more affordable. So I guess in the midst of it, I mean, battery is definitely an alternative and it's a greener future. At the end of the day, if anything is good for the environment, I think, take what we can get, right?
Okay, and this is basically an inside tip that remember, you heard it first on Revv Evolution. I think if any technology that's going to be introduced is going to be solar technology.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, where they could actually embed.
So
they could probably embed solar panels into your car.
Yeah.
On your on your body, and as you're driving, with Singapore,
it's charging.
It's being charged. So that I think and like I said, for me, I've been looking at it, and I think that really, if there's any technology that's going to be introduced, is this technology where they implement all the solar things into your body. Makes sense.
And it makes sense because, if you're just reusing the what we're getting naturally, right, from the sun, especially in a place like Singapore where it's so hot, right, all year round, I do think that is definitely a good space.
Viable,
it's definitely viable.
Okay.
You should be a business owner, really.
Yeah. And like I said, I've been thinking about it. Okay, so what's next, bro?
All right, next up for point on number 8, or EV myth 8, we've got the fact that EVs are considered pointless because you still have to pay for dirty electricity.
Okay, so I'm taking this one, right? Okay.
Yes.
So, right. So with every kind of technology, whether it's cars or anything that you think of, right? There's always a trade-off.
Yep.
But with EV technology, the only thing I know, people, all the environmentalists have been kicking up a fuss about, hey, EVs are not green because if you look at it, the whole process of creating batteries and in the factories and everything, you actually, it's actually bad for the environment. So that I totally agree, because the whole process of creating, doing this, yes, you are definitely, creating more, you're actually burning fossil fuels and everything else. But in the bigger picture, and we're talking about this over a space of time, if you look at it, that is basically the only place where the numbers of, the so-called dirty, actually go up. Because end of the day, when the car is actually on the road and driving and doing your charging.
It's not polluting.
Yeah, it's not polluting.
Yeah.
Probably the only so-called pollutant is going to be when you actually charge your car. And that is like how many, if you look at it, compare it to an ice car that's on the road driving non-stop.
Is just emitting.
Exactly. It's emitting, fossil fuels is burning and so really, there's really a lot of pros and cons. So I'm not going to confirm and say that, yes, that is, EVs are totally clean. Yes, that is. They are actually, also contributing, but how much percentage in terms of they are actually doing it in terms of being bad for environment? That's really a big question mark. So that's my take on it anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. I think at the end of the day, if we could centralize these emissions into one place and from there decide how we can lower it down, it's a lot better than having constant cars just moving around and emitting in their individual tailpipes, right?
Yeah, and speaking of that, bro, see solar panels on the road.
Yeah, there we go. That's the future right there. Who knows, man? We're seeing a lot of things. A lot of places in China where they're using solar solar panels, right?
That's the future.
So it's great. It's fantastic.
Okay.
All right,
what's
now
next?
On to our next myth, myth 9. We've got the fact that you can't tow your EV if the battery runs flat. Okay, now this is definitely a concern for many of us, because especially if you've been running for a long time, right? And you're just worried about the fact that whether you'll be able to, get someone to tow it, right? But here's the thing: while towing EV with all 4 wheels on the ground can likely damage the motors, most towing companies now, I believe, are equipped with the necessary equipments like your flatbed trucks, which is considered safe, and of course the standard protocol for transporting EVs which are flat or just has to move around, right?
Yeah, and that being said, even with ICE, like a 4-wheel drive car, they use flatbeds anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do think that at the end of the day, it's at least, in Singapore, if it ever falls flat as well, or if there's any issue that you face, right? You've got many other companies out there who has the necessary equipments to get you from point A to point B.
I think that's
so you don't have to worry too much about that.
The likelihood of you ever having a flat is
come on lah. You can run for another 1 or 2 kilometers, and boom, there you have a charger. So, the worst case scenario, you gotta wait there for 6 hours. Drink coffee, chill out with friends, and then there you are on the road again.
Yes, these are problems. Okay, and what's the last question? Last myth that we have for today?
All right, the last and the 10th myth that we're busting today is the fact that insurance for EVs in Singapore is unreasonably high, Renee.
Okay, so this I believe, honestly, this is really a good question, a good myth. Also, because as with I mentioned earlier, EVs being something not relatively new in the market, so a lot of insurance companies are actually trying to explore how they can actually bring down the cost for an EV, because as you mentioned also earlier as well, with an ICE, there's so many moving parts, there's so many things happening in the car. There's so in terms of insurance companies, they have to cater in terms of pricing, how much they're going to actually cover you lah. But with an EV, with having less moving parts, if you look at the coverage, it's probably everybody's hoping for it to be less, because the mindset will be but then EV doesn't have an engine, doesn't have a radiator, doesn't have this and everything else. And in terms of even if there's an accident, if you drive an EV, unless you have really major chassis damage where you affect the battery, then you're talking about some major costs. Other than that, it's going to be relatively cheaper. So And I believe a lot of insurance companies are actually now exploring new insurance policies where it's actually going to be, it's going to be more beneficial for you to actually switch, from driving in ICE into an EV because of the fact that it's going to be lower costing with insurance companies. But that being said, like I said, I'm no insurance expert, but this is all knowledge that I've actually read out there. So so don't confirm or use me as a benchmark and say, hey, but I heard this on the but this is what I've heard out there in terms of insurance companies actually trying to explore new schemes or incentives for you to actually buy an EV.
I mean, it's definitely in the experimental phase.
Exactly,
right?
correct. Yeah, it still is.
To be fair, you give them the benefit of doubt because ICE engines has been around for decades or centuries,
that's the only thing we know, man.
So if we're trying something new and it's still, I wouldn't say the discrepancy is too far off. But I do think that over the long run, at the end of the day, we did talk about this the previous time around.
Yep, we did.
You do have a lot more cost savings when it comes to EV.
Correct.
That's for sure. Charging is cheaper than petrol.
Yes.
And of course, the fact that you have warranty and lesser moving parts, lesser things to fix. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have to pay a little bit more for insurance, why not, right?
Correct. And I think with that, it kind of wraps up our episode right here on EV Myths Busted. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and to say once again, I'll say a very big thank you to Dan for joining me on this episode. And anything you want to kind of last minute thoughts or things you want to say about this episode?
Maybe you can share with us what you think your favorite EVs might be on the roads, because we're seeing a lot of it out there. And frankly speaking, Renee, I'm actually considering buying an EV.
Oh, you
in
are?
the foreseeable future. Not for now. I still like my ICE engines, and I think like a lot of these automobile lovers, the diehard ones, you do enjoy a growl of the engine and all that. I'm contradicting myself at this point, but I'll be frank. Okay, I mean it's really nice drive. So what is your favorite? You could drop it down, the comment section and tell us exactly what you think might be the top on the list.
Exactly. So if you have any questions also on any EVs that you want to see on this show, or any myths that you think you want us to kind of discuss or in this episode, do drop us a message, a DM to us, and we'll be happy to discuss it during our next few episodes right here on EV Myths Busted. And on behalf of myself, Renee,
and myself, Dan,
we want to say a big thank you, and we'll see you on the very next episode of EV Myths Busted.